Hey y'all, so I hope you all had a good weekend. We are actually gonna move on to a new thing today. So as I know you're probably well aware, we have 2 weeks left of the school year. So this week and next week of e-learning, then you guys are done for the summer until next fall. So I thought that I would take this week and next week and kind of go over people and things that have come up here and there, but we haven't had a chance to talk about. And then there's a place or two that I think you guys would find interesting. So we are going to start off with the Mongols and why they are always known as the exception. So we're going to look at a few things. We're going to look at understand who the Mongols are and where they're at in the world. Like today, where is Mongolia? We're going to identify some key leaders in Mongolian history. We're going to look at why John Green often refers to them as the exception to just about everything. And then we're going to look at the global impact that the Mongols have had on world history. So, first things first, where is Mongolia? So, the modern day country is north of China and south of Russia, right here. As you can tell, it is a landlocked country, and the capital is Ulaanbaatar. It is believed to be from this general area where the famed Mongol conquerors Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, those people expanded out and created the world's largest continuous land empire in world history. So I say larger than Rome. Like Roman Empire at its height, this was bigger. It was roughly around 11 million square miles. And it went from all the way from southern China west to what is today Iran and Iraq and Turkey, and then as far northwest as Russia, Ukraine, that area. So they covered just a vast amount of territory. What makes them an interesting group is that they are largely then and now largely a nomadic and pastoral people, which means they just simply moved around the area grazing their animals, their livestock, their camels, goats, sheep, that kind of thing. So the question is, how did a group of nomads, of people just wandering around with their animals, end up conquering land going from China to Russia and Turkey? Largely the answer lies in one man, Genghis Khan. So historically speaking, the Mongols have been divided into various tribes or clans led by a ruler known as a Khan. So the leader of each of these different tribes was known as the Khan. And a lot of times the Khans would often fight wars against each other for control of grazing areas for livestock and just general small conflicts. Nothing too massive. And because of this lifestyle of kind of just nomadic lifestyle, wandering around with their farm animals, horses and archery became a vital aspect of the daily life for the Mongols. Mongol peoples are renowned for their horsemanship and their archery skills, and they were able to combine the two to basically have archers on horseback who could go around and just absolutely destroy typical land-based armies who weren't nearly as mobile in getting around from place to place. But no one was able to figure out how to put this together until 1206 CE, after a series of civil wars that led to a man named Temujin to be declared the universal leader, or Genghis Khan. So Genghis Khan isn't actually his original name. His original name is Temujin, but after he was able to unite the Mongolian tribes, he took on the title Genghis Khan, or universal leader. And so under Genghis Khan, the Mongol armies just moved across Central Asia, capturing neighboring tribes, before moving on to China, Iran, Russia, and just vast amounts of territory. At its peak, nearly 11 million square miles of land was run by the Mongols. At its peak, or Genghis Khan during its peak actually changed quite a bit about their society and military. The Mongols were known for being very flexible on the battlefield, often adopting conquered people's ideas and technologies to suit their own. So, being nomadic peoples on horseback, you wouldn't think they'd be able to capture cities, participate in siege warfare, but they were actually adopted Chinese and Indian Iranian catapult designs. And then eventually they adopted early forms of cannons, if you want to call them that, that were developed in China. So they were known for taking the military technologies of the people they conquered and using them to their own advantage. So outside of that, Genghis Khan also put in a system based on merit, which essentially means if you were up for a job in the army, like a general, let's say, he would normally, oftentimes it would come down to, did you know the person who was in charge of filling that spot? If you knew that person, you had a good chance of getting it. Under Genghis Khan, however, though, his merit system, he didn't really care who you were related to or who you knew. It was, can you do a better job than this guy? If you can, congratulations, the job is yours, and you have it until someone else comes along who can do better than you. And so that kind of improved the Mongol army, their military, even their society, really, because this merit system applied to society at large. He also instituted a system of writing, a code of laws, and a postal system. And this picture here just gives you an idea of the land size of the Roman Empire at its height compared to the Mongol Empire. So this empire pretty much fell apart as quickly as it started. In 1227 CE, Genghis Khan died. He leaving behind a very fragile system of who would lead following his death. So essentially, he didn't really set up a line of succession of, okay, after me it's this person, then this person, then this person, and so on. It was kind of like, I'm going to divide you up into groups. You each get a section. You can figure out who's going to be the next great Khan or the great universal leader. Sounds like a good idea, but this pretty soon rivalries developed, disputes emerged between the different Khans, and eventually leading to just essentially a bunch of smaller Mongolian empires that did not act in a unified way. So almost as quickly as they expanded, they started shrinking a little bit. And so let's look at the global impact of all the Mongols. So first off, why do we care about a man and an empire that were around nearly 800 years ago? So part of why we care is the geography behind and culture behind all of it. And then another part just involves straight up numbers. So the Mongols weren't very much into art and science themselves. They didn't really value that themselves as a society, but they did appreciate people who did, appreciate the accomplishments of people who focused on those things. So oftentimes when they would conquer a place, they would take all of the intellectual people, the architects, the engineers, artists, scientists, people of higher learning, and they would move them across the empire to various spots where they were needed. So they might move an engineer to Iran and then move an artist to China or something along those lines. They appreciated what these people did, their specialties, and they kind of used those people to their advantage to fill gaps that they lacked themselves. And so this led to a lot of technological advances across different parts of the world. It led to the spread of different ideas. People who normally wouldn't be in contact with each other were now working together on things. And so just the trade of ideas, information was huge because of this. And it's also believed that the Mongols are the ones who introduced gunpowder and guns to Europe. And so we can kind of see how fighting in one part of the world the Mongols in China led to developments in weaponry all the way in Europe. They're also believed to have helped in the spread of diseases across the empire. This one kind of fits in with what's going on now, in a sense, because a leading theory as to why the plague known as the Black Death in Europe, how it got there, it's believed that it came from rats brought to Europe from trading ships in the Mongol-controlled Black Sea. So they think that the increase in trade in Mongolia led to the higher chance of people getting infected through each other or through different animals and diseases that we weren't normally exposed to. And so the theory is that's how the Black Death got into Europe in the 1300s, was because of the increased trading in Central Asia and where the Mongols were, and that focus on trade kind of led to an increase in the chance of disease spreading, which ultimately it did. So another thing that kind of we just mentioned too was that they also brought back the idea of trade routes that had been largely abandoned, and some of those trade routes combined we know as the Silk Road. So the Silk Road prior to the Mongols had kind of fallen away a little bit. They were still there, but they weren't as safe as they used to be, and they weren't as used as they used to be. But being under the rule of the Mongolian Empire, those trade routes came back into focus and became more active and more lucrative for people to make money traveling on those trade routes, because they knew they had the protection of the Mongols along the trade routes. I mentioned too the numbers part of this. So not only is Genghis Khan known for his military and administrative things he did, he's also known for being the father of a lot of children. It's estimated that today there are roughly 17 million people in the world who are directly related to Genghis Khan in some way. That many people means that every day of the year is a birthday of someone who is related to Genghis Khan. So there, somewhere on the world, every day there is a birthday of someone whose ancestry can be traced back to Genghis Khan in Mongolia 800 years ago. I just found that kind of interesting. Not to be honest with you, so I thought that was worth sharing. But it kind of proves goes in the next part is why does John Green and others kind of say the Mongols are always the exception to things? And so a lot of it goes back to what our definition of a civilized people is. And for most people, the Mongols don't meet that definition. We often think the Mongols as warring, brutal people, which they were. But they also had other things and lacked other things that we would consider people to be civilized with. Oftentimes people think civilizations must have cities, they must have writing, you need to have some kind of established religion, and you need to have some kind of legal system, a code of laws or something along those lines. And largely for most of Mongol history, they didn't really have any of those. Even today, close to half the people living in modern-day Mongolia are considered nomadic or semi-nomadic, meaning they don't have a permanent place. They travel around the country raising livestock. So the idea of cities, which we often think of as a civilization, it has to have cities. The Mongols didn't. That's writing. Until Genghis Khan comes around, the Mongols had no formal writing or legal system. He introduced writing and a code of laws into Mongolian society that wasn't there before. They don't have an established religion the way we think of like Christianity, Islam. They're more of a shamanism, which essentially means they believe in spirits and animal spirits and nature spirits, that kind of thing. If you want to look more into it, you can, but they don't have an established religion like Christianity, Judaism, Islam, that kind of thing. So a lot of times people don't consider them civilized for those reasons. They don't have all of these things that most civilized people have. And the question then is that John Green kind of asked a little bit, and what other people are asking now is, do you have to have cities, writing, religion, legal codes? Do you have to have those to be civilized? He says no, and that's why he says they're the exception, because a lot of times, like, oh, uncivilized people can't do this. Like the Mongols did it. So it's something that's kind of debated a lot now, and will probably continue to be debated in the future. But that is all I want to go over for today. So the assignment for today is actually on going to be an Ed puzzle. The video is like 5 minutes. It's not super long. I think I had put in 6 questions on there. So it'll be due Thursday the 14th at 8 a.m. like always. And then if you want to know more about the Mongols, here's a few places. One of them is the crash course video from John Green on the Mongols, and then the other one is one of those Geography Now videos I show from time to time. Completely optional if you want to watch them. That's how I kind of did my research on this, so it might be worth looking into, but I'll leave that up to you guys. Otherwise, that is all I have for you. I hope you guys have a good week, and we are almost done, y'all, so hang in there.